Hey,
Yeah. Could you do all that over?
Rotary Vivian, in the name of Rotary Club First Flight, I now formally admit you to membership in this club and affix to your lapel our emblem, which is probably in the book or read right
This
there.
should be laying right there on the ledge.
I do not see it.
Stan, I said, down. Yep.
Oh, there it is.
I knocked it on the floor.
You did.
Oh, well.
Try to do things for you.
There's your hand.
Thank you.
Fellow Rotarians, I commend to you our newest member, Rotarian Vivian Santana. I ask all members to rise and welcome her.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Stan, do you want to do a Rotary minute today? Oh,
Sure.
these are booked too.
Since I have this in my hand, the past few new members, we try to give them a notebook with some basic Rotary facts in it. If you've lost this or you want some basic Rotary facts, all you have to do that. Because you need to have a couple hours if you ask me, but there's some other people that might be briefer. Vivian? That's it.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Does anybody have any announcements?
Just that there was a pair of glasses left at our last meeting.
Oh,
I didn't know if that was anybody here.
anybody left their glasses?
Oh, yeah, it's only here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think you'd notice, right?
I can't think of who it would be. I think everybody's here.
Yeah. Can we have
Might have been Doug.
a quick update from our last project from Mr. and Mrs. Polk?
Sure. The last project, a lot of you already know what the project was, but it was a drive for blankets, clothes, food drive. We actually, Rochelle was nice enough to allow a box to be put into the lobby of United Bank. And we picked up, I guess 2 weeks ago, the final box, which netted us probably 8 more jackets, a couple more blankets for the SPCA. But in total, I believe it was about 154 pounds of food, which Elizabeth Silverthorne said would feed, would provide, I think, over 180 meals. So
Wow.
that was fantastic. We had over 50 coats, which are actually going to be donated to the clothes for kids of Dare County. The YMCA actually did not do their benefit this year, so we found another nonprofit to take those coats. So that's where they went. We had probably 25 or 30 blankets and towels for the SPCA. They were thrilled to see us come down there. And we had several donations from members to split between the charities. We just want to make sure that we've got all the donations for that, and then we'll go ahead and split the funds between the charities that we worked for. Great, it's a great project, no doubt. It was an easy project, which yielded big benefits for the folks who were benefiting our work. So I definitely want to do it again. Lori has mentioned that Captain Georges would certainly be willing to take us on again on Working Women's Wednesday. I think it's something we should really consider. Maybe do it every quarterly, maybe not so
Or
much
once
every
a month
month.
if you want to.
Yeah, I just worry we're going to oversaturate. So, but I think definitely we'll go ahead and utilize that venue again. It was a really good turnout. So what we really need, folks, is some more ideas for service projects in the community. It's great to have something like this that works out for us, that really produces a nice yield, but we need everybody's ideas in regards to what we can do that is going to, one, benefit the community, but two, get Rotary, not just First Flight, but the Rotary, the Outer Banks, Rotary International, get our faces out to the community. So anyhow, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you, John, for the
First, did we pass the word that the Honduras project went through? I think you did that last month. Right?
I think so, but you want to update everybody on it?
Well, I think we mentioned it we were going to give about $2,000, plus there was some more from individuals to the Honduras water project, and it was delayed due to funding at the foundation, Rotary Foundation. But in fact, it has gone through, and Carl may have actually written a check so that 250 families in Honduras can drink clean water instead of getting it out of a creek.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Don. Okay, all right. Does anybody have happy dollars? Is anybody happy?
You got it? Okay. I was waiting for Colin to get it.
Yeah, y'all want to do it? Just like old times.
That's why I didn't move.
How you gonna do
Yeah. See, that's why I need you back.
All right. Oh, yeah, you said that.
I did.
Several happy dollars, obviously for each of my kids, but we took the kids and went to New York City over Christmas. They actually
Oh, wow.
spent Christmas in New York City during Omicron. And I gotta tell you, it's a different world up there. You feel very secure, you feel very safe, because like 80% of the people on the street and 100% inside, and you have to show your vaccination app before you go into a restaurant or any of the facilities. I mean, it's really, but the other thing we found out is there's a lot of cool stuff in New York City without doing shows, without getting involved in a crowd. And we had an absolute blast. And I gotta tell you, I do. I know everybody talks about New York City, but right now there's a lot less people there. They're being really careful, and I would give it a plug. I know normally I'm heading to Florida, but we had a blast. So anyway, happy dollars for the great vacation experience.
They're all down here.
Yeah.
That might be just for you.
Anybody else have that?
I've got two happy dollars. First, I'm happy for this great turnout. It's good to see everybody. And second, I'm happy that I survived another workout in the surf on New Year's morning. And again, I was the oldest person there.
All right. Well, one, might have marital problems if I didn't be happy for my wife coming out. Number two, I'm happy because it is January 5th and our kids' birthdays are January 1st and 2nd. And we already have one of those birthday parties done. So that they usually seem to stretch into the middle of the month. And this last one is somewhat of a sad dollar. Comes around every year, about 30 minutes after sunset, January 1st. Deer season is over. So I now have to wait 2 to 3 more months before the fish start coming here. So
I have several because one's well, it's happy because Patsy and I got over it. But thanks to my son's in-laws, where we spent Christmas Day, my wife and I and about 10 other people got the worst case of food poisoning in our lives.
Oh, no.
I didn't have to worry about anything I ate during the holidays because it all left. For sure.
That would have been us.
Yeah, I was sick for a whole week. Patsy was sick for about 5 days. My son was sick for 2 days. You know, second day he showed me a picture eating sausage gravy and biscuits, and I go, thanks a lot. But it was a memorable Christmas. And you know, they were nice people, and I'm a talkative guy, so you know, got a great talk with a Chicago fireman that just an outstanding young man with a great family and puts his life on the line pretty much every day. He's a diver. He's certified in everything except one category as a fireman in Chicago, and he's just an outstanding young man. You just never know who you'll meet, and you need to take those experiences. The rest of it is, this was our first long distance trip in our new car, our Tesla, and it went really, really well. I would drive that thing across the country in a heartbeat. It took us a couple more hours each day because we were ultra conservative on our charging. You know, the car said, oh, you'll get there, you'll have 9% left. I'm going like 9%. That's, you know, that's still like over 25 miles, almost 30, because our range is like 350. And you go like, oh, let's just charge it a little more. Yeah. But from here, we stayed in Richmond, Ohio, which is or Richmond, Indiana, the Ohio-Indiana border. And to get there, we had to stop one more time than if we just used our Volvo and bought gas. So just one extra stop, mainly because we were ultra conservative. Coming back, we eliminated those charges, and it was great. And the car drove and sat as well as my Volvo. Got back in the Volvo when we got home and going like, this car is so sluggish, so noisy, so slow. You go like, what happened to my car? But it was great. If anybody wants to talk about that for hours, or wants a test drive, come and see me. It was awesome.
I'm happy to see Jamie here. And I've got actually $2. Number one, Jamie survived salmonella.
Oh, no. Man.
Me and Stan, I don't know about you, but I was laying in the floor praying to death.
Not only, but she went up Stan because she got some other bacteria on top of the salmonella.
She did.
And survived that too. So here's-
Always one up in people.
I do.
Well, there is illness besides COVID.
That's just for 2022. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yay.
I'm looking forward to 2022. And I want to thank you for voting me and allowing me to be part of Rotary. This one here is a very exciting happy dollar for me. Come February 1st, for the first time in my life, I will have a completely empty nest. I will be all alone, and I can do some of the things I've always wanted to do. But I was held back because I was looking at children. My kids are already giving me guidelines of what I can and can't do. I just throw them in the trash. I have the right to do what I want to do. Yeah.
Amen.
It's going up.
Anybody else?
Well, can I borrow $2 and pay it next week? I don't have any cash.
Sure.
I'm just really happy because I haven't seen Jamie in forever either. I didn't even know you were here. And then I don't know, some of you may not know, but we're rescuing horses. And I have formed a bond, my little one-eyed wonder named Callie, that I may not be able to get rid of or let her be rehomed. So I'm just grateful that Callie and I bonded over New Year's Day on the beach. It was awesome.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Now, Don is hosting our program today, and I'll get Don to come up and introduce our speaker.
Well, I think this has worked out great because the speaker will only have 2 minutes to introduce himself and then it'll be over and be out of here. Actually, I have always been amazed at the hidden treasures that we have here on the Outer Banks. And to me, Coastal Studies Institute, commonly called CSI, is one of them. Every time I talk to somebody who works over there, every time I hear of anything happening over there, it's fascinating. And so I thought it'd be good to, for those of you who don't know much about it, to learn more, and for those of us who do, find out what the latest is going on over there. So I reached out and asked about a speaker, and they said, well, John McCord is the best that we have. And they said, but Reed Corbett is the dean, and probably you should ask him. So I got real concerned about that because, you know, Reed being a PhD, I assumed he would give the lecture, then quiz us, and then have to go over the quizzes before we could get out of here. So Reed is not here, so we got our first choice. John McCord is here to tell us all about CSI.
Thanks so much, Don. Thanks a lot for having me out today. I definitely don't think I'm the best orator at CSI, but I've been there a long time. This is actually my 16th year at the Coastal Studies Institute, believe it or not. Can't believe it's been that long. By show of hands, how many of you guys have heard of the Coastal Studies Institute? Well, good. So 16 years ago, if I asked, no one would raise their hands. So I've done something in 16 years. I want to talk a little bit about the research, education, and outreach programs of the Coastal Studies Institute. 20 minutes is not a lot of time, and I'm going to stick to those 20 minutes. So wherever I am at the end of 20 minutes, we'll be done. But I'd encourage you to get engaged with the Coastal Studies Institute. Has anyone here been to one of our open houses before? We usually throw a big open house every spring, sometimes in the fall. We were actually planning 2 this year. The first one got shut down by ECU. We got approval for the second one, but the deans are meeting right now. And our entire spring is sort of up in the air. We also have 17 undergraduates showing up this Friday with Omicron. I don't know what the future of that is, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have an in-person open house this year. I really encourage you to come out. We usually have between 500, 700 people come out. And it's your chance to not just talk to people like me, but meet all the researchers that are there and students and see project. We have hands-on things. It's kid-friendly. Justice has certainly had her kids there and part of our programs that are there as well. And I'd really encourage you to come out. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we do and how things have changed a little bit. Like I said, I started in 2005, and back then we were just the Coastal Studies Institute. And now you'll notice there's sort of a new logo that's up there along with it. If you drive past our campus site, you'll notice a new sign out there, at least it's new within the last few years. We've always been inter-university in nature with partners throughout the university system. But about 3 or 4 years ago, ECU really took the lead and has formed a new academic unit of which we are a part of. And so this is ECU Integrated Coastal Programs. And our campus is part of ECU's campus. We're the ECU Outer Banks campus. And so the ECU Outer Banks campus, for those of you who don't know, is located on Roanoke Island. It's on the way to Wanchese, about 1 mile down, right at the curve, right in what some people know as Skyco. Everybody knows the Robbins family. They're probably familiar with Skyco. This is an aerial shot of our campus location. We've got about 230 acres there. Most of it is marshland. We've got about 35 ish buildable acres that are on that. And within that 35 acres, we have both a 55,000 research and education building, as well as our marine operations building, which houses our boat fleet and our small marina and our boat ramp located on the property itself. This is another shot. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's quite possibly one of the windiest places I've ever been on the planet. I live on North Roanoke Island. It can seem like it's blowing about 10 knots there. I go to work and it's blowing 30, it feels like. The building is what's an interesting side note. If you're ever there on a wind above 30 knots, depending on the direction, the building has fins in it and it will get harmonic and actually sing, which sounds great until you're in that building for about 10 hours and then it's insane. ECU Integrated Coastal Programs is made of basically 3 units. One of those is a new department that, and I realize for those of you in the back, that this screen is not quite large enough for you to read this that's on here, but a new interdisciplinary department called the Department of Coastal Studies. This contains professors in a variety of different fields, everything from oceanography to anthropology to geology to remote sensing specialists to future archaeologists. It also has a PhD program called the PhD in Integrated Coastal Sciences and an undergraduate program that we run every spring, which those students are showing up this Friday, and that's called the Semester Experience at the Coast. Underneath this ECU Integrated Coastal Programs umbrella is also the Coastal Studies Institute and houses our Renewable Ocean Energy program that we'll talk about as well. And the third sort of prong of that is the ECU Office of Diving and Water Safety. They fall under the same umbrella. They're the folks that handle all of our diving and boating operations. I head up our dive locker there at the Coastal Studies Institute. Anybody a diver in this group? A few of you are? Great. Come out to our open house and you can see the technology that we use there. The Coastal Studies Institute is an inter-university marine science research and education partnership. It's made up of these 5 universities that you see on there. We currently have jointly appointed faculty with ECU, NC State University, and UNC Chapel Hill. This idea for the Coastal Studies Institute was created in 1999 by then President Molly Broad, and we were founded in 2003. We used to have our facilities, and I was in some really wonderful facilities in downtown Manio. the old hotel. Does anybody remember the old hotel? We have bees that lived in the walls, rats, all sorts of fantastic stuff. We also converted a health center over off of Barn Street, which was the hospital way back in the day. That was actually our lab space. But in 2013, we moved into this beautiful new facility that's located on Roanoke Island. UNCW and Elizabeth City State University are also partners of ours. We currently don't have any jointly appointed faculty with them. The research that we do spans a variety of different disciplines, everything from maritime archaeology to oceanography, to ecology work, to biology work, to the social science aspect of things as well. And it basically falls into one of these 5 main research focus areas. I'd encourage you to visit our website if you have a chance. Coasts and people, marine and coastal ecosystems, oceanographic and coastal processes, marine and coastal resource management, and renewable ocean energy. So these are pretty broad areas, right? What sort of work do we do? We've got professors and specialists in a variety of different fields. These are just some of the things that we work on: marine biology, geology, economics and policy. Notice it's a mixture of those natural sciences and social sciences as well. One of the programs that I want to highlight today is our North Carolina Renewable Ocean Energy Program. This is a state-funded program to the tune of close to about $2 million annually that has been, the impetus of this was to try and diversify North Carolina's energy portfolio. And so what we're doing is we're looking at ways that we can potentially develop grid scale renewable energy for the state of North Carolina. This is a partnership as well. We don't do this in a vacuum. We've got a technical advisory committee with over 35 different folks from industry and the scientific community and the engineering field. We've also partnered with the colleges of engineering at NC State University, UNC Charlotte, and NC A&T University. And we fund projects all over North Carolina and around the nation, looking at ways for North Carolina to broaden its energy portfolio. I'm not going to bore you with the strategic priorities, but an important part of these strategic priorities for this program is to inspire innovation, stewardship, and blue economy development through public and academic engagement. One of the things that we're interested in doing is how can this be an economic driver for Northeastern North Carolina and North Carolina as a whole? How can we develop more jobs surrounding the blue economy that are within this renewable energy field? Not just ocean energy, but related to wind. We've got the wind farms going up in Virginia. We've got the ones that are potentially going up off of Kitty Hawk as well, and new fields for students to get into and be able to then broaden the variety of job opportunities that are available to folks in Northeastern North Carolina. The types of work that are done within the renewable energy program really span across looking at the resource as a whole. What sort of things could we use to generate energy for North Carolina, to how do we test some of these devices? What are the potential impacts of some of these devices? The initial legislation really focused mostly on wave energy. And I'm a surfer. Any surfers here in the crowd? I love to surf. In fact, hopefully the wind's going to go offshore later today and we'll have a nice clean afternoon of surf. But if you really look at our wave field, it's not the same amount of energy that we have in the North Sea or the Pacific Northwest. And so North Carolina, while the Outer Banks has good waves to surf on, we don't necessarily have a wave field that is set up for us to generate power from that at a grid scale. Wind was not necessarily the focus of that particular legislation. So what do you think our hope is for North Carolina for generating power off the coast? Any guesses? Current. We got a big current. We got currents all over the place, right? We got a really big one that's right off our coast. If anybody likes to fish here, you're probably familiar with it. It's about 42 to 50 miles off the coast. What's that? The Gulf Stream, right? So the Gulf Stream is this amazing body of water that heads northward, takes a right-hand turn off of Cape Hatteras, and it moves about 5 to 7 miles per hour. And it's got a lot of power and a lot of flow. When I say a lot of flow, it has an incredible amount of flow. If you take all the rivers in all the world combined, The Gulf Stream has 35 to 40 times that flow, just in the Gulf Stream. If we were to harness 0.00001% of that, we could power all the homes in North Carolina. Well, what's the problem with the Gulf Stream? It's like this giant river with no shores, right? You're doing it right back there. It does this number. And if you were to then take a device and place it out in the Gulf Stream, think of an underwater turbine, right? You got a problem because the very center of the Gulf Stream, where you know where it is it shallow there? No, it's like 15,000 feet deep or more, right? So one hope is placing it on the edge of the continental shelf and finding where that sweet spot is. So a lot of our work focuses on characterizing the Gulf Stream, understanding where it is and where it isn't, and where we might place devices. So this particular device you see in the upper left-hand corner is called an ADCP. It's called an acoustic Doppler current profiler. It measures currents above it within the water column. We have several of these deployed out there to be able to see in these areas, is the Gulf Stream in that area a particular number of times that would make it a place that's applicable to be able to place a device like that. We're also working with private industry to test their devices. These are a few devices, wave energy converters that we tested from a company called Resolute Marine Energy that are tested off of Jeanette's pier and also off of Duck Research Pier. We've been developing new technologies that help private industries widgets work better. This little device that's here is a magnetic gearing box. For any renewable energy, you need to take the relatively slow rotational speed, right, of renewable energy and make it fast on the outbound side to generate power. That requires a gearbox. Traditional gearboxes have teeth where you have friction loss. They require a lot of maintenance. It's honestly an obstacle for a lot of the wind energy industry because of the maintenance that's required there. This is a gearbox that uses high intensity magnets, neodymium magnets with no touching parts, completely hermetically sealed. We get the same torque power output on the outbound side with relatively little maintenance overall. We're working with folks within Department of Defense as well as with folks at NC State on development of new current harvesting technologies. The one on the right is a coaxial turbine that could be tethered out within the Gulf Stream and spin. The one on the left here is a really interesting technology. It is a glider or a kite technology. It's kind of like a little model plane if you see it here. And we just tested, actually I just spent 2 weeks in Lake Norman of all places, out in Charlotte where we were testing one of these. So you say, why were you in Lake Norman, a lake, testing a device that's used in currents? Well, we were towing it behind a boat. So the idea behind this device is it is an autonomous underwater glider that would be tethered to a larger glider that would fly out into the Gulf Stream. This smaller glider would come off of it with a tether and a winch. And by doing cross-current flight, anybody sails, you know, you can increase your velocity, right? If you come into the wind, taking advantage of Bernoulli's principle and all that good stuff, lift, right? And it flies figure-8 patterns and it pays itself in and out on that winch, and the winch actually generates the energy. Almost sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? An autonomous glider that flies out into the Gulf Stream, deploys another glider, generates energy, and then flies back in shore, and then offloads some of that energy. That's some of the ways we're looking at getting past some of the mooring challenges with being out in the middle of the Gulf Stream. We also promote the development of that blue economy through competitions. We have K-12 competitions, the Renewable Energy Challenge, which we haven't hosted for 2 years because of COVID, but we hosted for 4 years prior to that, where kids design and build wind turbines and renewable ocean energy devices. We've engaged with university undergraduate students to test their devices in our wave tank. So very engaged with those folks as well. Another project that I want to highlight, I'm only going to get through about half the things that are on here. Well, another project that I want to highlight is our Waves to Water competition. This is something, COVID willing, that will happen during the month of April. This is a national Department of Energy sponsored renewable energy prize. And so we're 2 years into this prize right now. And the winners, there's 5 finalists that have gone through the process of designing and testing renewable energy devices that then desalinate water. The idea behind this is utilize small, discrete renewable energy to be able to then power onboard desalination systems that could be used in disaster response scenarios, remote island communities, think Puerto Rico, right, what just happened down there. These kind of devices could be quickly deployed and then generate fresh water. And so we've got, it's a $3.5 million total prize. About $500,000 goes to the winning team. It's down to 5 teams from all over the United States. They'll be coming here during the month of April. We have an entire month weather window, and we're inviting the entire public to come out, meet the team, see the devices, see them being deployed. We'll also be live streaming everything as well. We'll be testing these devices in the waters off of Jeanette's Pier. Jeanette's Pier is a really strong partner of ours. We've actually invested quite heavily in the infrastructure there. We have a diver elevator, a little hut in the end. We cut a big hole in the bottom of it, put a diver elevator in it. We get in it, we can go down and then deploy right into the water so we don't have to swim through the surf, or even worse, bring a boat around. We'll actually have cranes on the end of the pier that are putting these devices into the water. So this is an exciting project that will be happening this April, COVID willing, right? So one more project that I want to talk briefly about, I have 3 minutes left, is Fisheries Ecology Lab. Until recently, most of what we did was focus on ecology as well as geology and coastal processes around northeastern North Carolina and the Outer Banks. We've since brought on staff as part of our faculty, Dr. Jim Morley. He's a fisheries ecologist and a biologist, and he really looks closely at fish communities and our impacts both positively and negatively on those. And he's really interested in the rapidly developing aquaculture market in coastal North Carolina, in particular oyster aquaculture and the impacts that oyster aquaculture might have on a variety of different species. This particular species he's interested in, I don't know if you can see here, is a sheep's head, which is a structure-oriented fish, right? They've got crushing teeth. They eat lots of invertebrates that live on oyster reefs and things like that. And they're attracted to these aquaculture areas. So we wanted to see the impacts. How are these fish utilizing these areas? Are they staying in these areas? Are they leaving in these areas? How do they utilize them? So he had an interesting project with his PhD student, Andrew McMains, which you can see here, where they would put out these simple traps to catch sheep's head. You don't even have to put the top on these traps. These are not the smartest fish. Basically, you put a whole bunch of shell in an open top basket. You leave it out there, you pick the shell up, and what do you think the sheep's head do when they get scared? They hunker down in the shell. So you just literally pick the basket up, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? That's the statement. And they're located in these traps. And then we take these tiny acoustic transponders that you see Andrew holding up here, and we anesthetize the fish and do a little bit of surgery, place them in the belly. We put out these little transducers, which are basically acoustic receivers. These little devices here send out a tiny ping, and these receivers then can receive those pings, and then we can actually locate those. We put several of them out in a surrounding area and use a little math, calculus. Remember in school when you said, when was I going to ever use calculus? Our folks use calculus, oceanographers and biologists and ecologists use it quite regularly. Use a little calculus, and we can actually figure out where these animals are. I have a short video. This is the last thing that I'll play, because I know everyone wants to get out of here. But I have a short video. It's about 2 minutes that kind of goes through some of this process. So here you can see them pulling up one of these devices. They find the fish that are inside of these and you can see several of them floating around inside there. They bring them back onto the boat, and then they place them in a bucket to anesthetize them, which basically knocks them out for about 45 minutes or so. At that point, once they're knocked out, we can measure them and we can weigh them. There's Jim doing the highly accurate little hang scale there, right? And then give it to, these are the little acoustic transponders that we mentioned. So cell phone technology has really pushed a lot of the devices that we use, right? And this is one of those with small enough batteries to be able to put these, we're putting them in fish that are literally this big, putting them inside that body cavity. Our mortality rate is very, very low. We've had these things last as long as the battery does, about 6 months. Then they're then revived and then let go back in the area right on where they were captured, right within there. The next step is to create basically a circle around that area. And this particular site we chose because there were relatively few areas in and out of this aquaculture site. And then we can physically actually see them ping and hear them. This is an animation that's, once we downloaded the data, each one of those is tagged fish. And so that's real data of their movements around the site, which is fascinating. Notice how they, while they are structure oriented, they make these little forays out to forage around and then come back. And in just a minute, you'll see them all start to slow down, come back to the home base and really not move a lot. What do you think is happening at this point right now? They're taking a nap. It's nighttime, so they're hunkered down. They're in a state of torpor. They're not really asleep, but it's a reduced state of awareness. And so that sort of project allows us to better understand how these animals utilize that important resource. And the reality is these oyster aquaculture farms are not negatively impacting them. It's providing positive habitat for them. And that's just sort of one step. I had several other projects that I wanted to talk to you about. Consider this a teaser for you to either have me back or you come out to the Coastal Studies Institute. And we would love to have you visit us out there at our Coastal Studies Institute, ECU Outer Banks campus. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic program. And
Kern,
yes, sir.
just a note for our illustrious speaker, if y'all ever have any studies where you tag and find out the habits of flounder, just don't, I will happily volunteer and help you with that. As long as I get a purview of the results.
That's right.
One of the things I didn't mention, and I want to mention briefly, is we have a lot of programs for adults. That was one of the slides, and for youth. We not only do we have undergraduate and graduates, we usually do about 3,000 K-12 students each year at CSI through our standards-based program. In fact, Jess worked with us several years. This year is the first year we've been able to have students back. We already have 1,700 kids coming this spring, and I haven't even told anybody that we're allowing kids back because we're still up in the air. We also have summer camps. We have 8 weeks of summer camp. It's for 10 to 15-year-olds, 9 to 15-year-olds. Will happen this summer as well. So if you know a young child who's interested in marine science, we have all different themes. Emma went last year, had a blast, but we encourage you to stay engaged. We have a lot of programs that happen. Check us out on YouTube. I know I'm going over time. We have 170 videos on YouTube. I create a lot of video content. We do live streams. We have to meet the scientists that happens every month. We usually have Science in the Sounds, which is also a lecture series, but we can't have anybody on campus yet. We'd love to keep engaged with you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Outstanding.
Very quickly, in addition to tolerating Jay for more hours during the day than any of us do, Jess is also Dolphin Research, the recipient of half of our district grant. And we are just finished out her portion of it for a display at the Bonehead program and about the Dolphin Research program of the Outer Banks. So thank you, Jess, for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now it's time to announce the 50-50 raffle winner. Since it's 5 minutes after 2.
All right, well, I'm gonna have John, if you don't mind, you're gonna draw the very first ticket.
Okay.
Awesome, that was a really awesome presentation. And then Paul, as our guest, if you don't mind, if you draw. And then let me accept and then draw another, because we're gonna have 2 additional winners. Actually, go ahead and draw 2 more. Let's have 3 additional winners today. All right, and if you want to go ahead and call out the number for the 50-50.
All the numbers are just the last two.
That's
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
138.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's like 130.
That's fine.
All right. Would you like
And when they
that?
were close.
That's okay.
Go for it.
That's the old style, I guess. Yeah. Oh,
So,
look at his face.
ooh. any of those, you guys are all going to get your choice of either tickets to go to the movie theater or to some of the various restaurants. Yep.
158.
Woo. All right,
All right.
tickets or restaurant?
Restaurant. Thank you very much.
There you go. Let's take
That's what I
care.
grabbed too.
Huh?
I don't know how many I grabbed. I grabbed a bunch.
To the side. You still going to the same restaurant? Go ahead with the second number.
126.
Movies.
All right.
Newest member.
Newbie.
Here, I'll tell you what, you're a new member, you're gonna get both.
Just don't give me.
Don't pick up.
Oh, picture.
Yeah, girl. All right, and the next one?
048.
Oh, that's me. All right. Let's just go ahead and give everybody dinner and movie. I'll bring you some back over there too. That's her too. Let's see. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else want to go to the movies before the end of January?
Sure.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? It's for two people. Anybody else? What happens when you show up for Rotary, right? Would you like to go to the movies while you're in town? You're welcome. Happy New Year.
And thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
All right, and just in closing, we'd like to thank Paul Carr for visiting with us from Cary.
Glad to have you, man.
I'd like to thank John for doing the program. It was excellent.
Excellent.
$95 today, guys.
Oh, fantastic. And we'd like to welcome Vivian as our newest member. Now we'll recite the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do.
First,
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? At this time, we'll adjourn with our motto.
Service on self.
Thank you so much.
great meeting.